Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 15 years now, we've been asking entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and according to the American Massage Therapy Association, almost 50% of adults in the United States will experience a mental health challenge during their lifetime. Moreover, a growing body of research supports the positive impact of massage therapy on relieving stress, anxiety, and depression. And many of these studies indicate that massage therapy provides benefits similar to psychotherapy for specific conditions. So today what we're going to do is we're going to play clips from 3 massage therapy franchises. We've got Massage Heights, Hand and Stone, and Woodhouse Day Spa. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Scott Schubiger, the Chief Development Officer of the Massage Heights franchise opportunity. And Massage Heights is a family-owned massage and wellness franchise dedicated to elevating the lives of others by providing members and guests with professional, affordable, and resort-quality massage, skincare, and wellness services. Hi, Scott. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Marty. Thank you for having me today.
This is my pleasure, Scott. We would like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Scott?
I'm calling from my home office today in Morristown, New Jersey.
Oh, fantastic. I grew up in New Jersey, Scott. So,
nice.
I know New Jersey well, and I'm not that far from New Jersey. I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Not at all.
So it's kind of like right over the river, so we're not that far apart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's a nice day today. It's a little bit warm still, but, you could feel traces of fall coming, can't you?
Oh, yeah. Definitely can see the swing, but September's a beautiful month in this part of the country, as you know.
It sure is. Absolutely. You have an amazing background, Scott. I thought maybe, we could start a little bit with, how you actually got involved in franchising, because you have an amazing career.
Well, thank you very much. It's interesting. The first, I guess about 18 years now in franchising, but that's only half my career, basically. The first half of my career out of grad school was in technology, Marty, companies like Cisco Systems and HP. So I kind of got world-class sales training at an early age. And a buddy of mine, we have a beach house down in LBI, and a buddy of mine one day who was running Realogy, which was Sendent at the time. If you're familiar with all the real estate franchising brands, they're all under one conglomerate in Parsippany, New Jersey. Yeah. Wow. And he was kind enough to get me in the door. I wanted some international experience under my belt. He had just hired a gentleman who headed up all of their brands internationally. And lo and behold, I got a position in franchise sales to run the Sotheby's International Real Estate brand in Asia Pacific. So I got my international experience. I cut my teeth in franchising, learned a lot from that conglomerate, came back to the States and worked with the CEO on launching Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. And then the rest was history, because a lot of those folks actually went off. It's sort of like a coaching tree in football, where the real estate, the franchising tree, those gentlemen went off. A lot of them went into private equity. They bought brands. Rita's Ice was one of them. And then I came into Rita's as chief development officer. So that story kind of repeated itself a couple of times. And really got me going in the world of franchising.
What is it you like most about franchising, Scott? Like, what, you've been in franchising for a while now. So what do you like most about it?
Yeah, I think that for me, at the end of the day, it's really the rewarding aspect of helping people, maybe, who desire to get out of corporate America, be their own boss, have a lifestyle change. I and my team take that very, very seriously. That's a very awesome responsibility.
Right.
So, I enjoy the process to this day, from the very first call when my team talks to them about, making sure that we give them, I always tell the candidates, our job as a team is to give you all the ammunition you and your spouse need, usually a spouse, but not always, to make the best decision. And if it's our brand, great. If it's not, that's okay. And hopefully I was able to put you in a good position for something else.
Right.
So that's what I enjoy about it the most. It really, to this day, is still very rewarding. And then, as you know, a lot of those franchisees become your friends, which is fantastic.
It's interesting you say that, Scott, because, when we talk about Massage Heights, I mean, it's a family brand, and it's almost like, your franchisees become part of the family to some extent, don't they?
100%. And, Shane Evans did a tremendous job, her and her family, of getting this brand off the ground back in 2004. And I just had the pleasure of being with Shane for a couple of days in Las Vegas at the MUFC show, and she's as passionate as ever. She was in our booth telling the story, and what they built is just something, to your point, it's family-based first. That never has left the brand. And at the end of the day, you're exactly right. I mean, you're bringing these people into your family. We
had Massage Heights on the show. I mean, it was in the early days, Scott. I mean, I want to go back maybe about 10, 11 years ago, so I mean, and the brand has just come so far, I mean, it's wonderful. The pleasure for me in doing the show is, when I have a franchise, not to say Massage Heights was new at the time, but they were a much younger brand, and now it's like there's such a recognizable brand. I mean, it seems like everyone is familiar with them. Maybe you could talk a little bit about like a brief history of Massage Heights and how they got started. You mentioned they are a family brand, but for our new listeners who might be unfamiliar, maybe you could talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so San Antonio, Texas based. Shane Evans was actually experiencing as an athlete, in her years after college, she kind of had a back injury, and she was really struggling, not finding the right way, and she stumbled upon sort of massage therapeutically that, not only just, the relaxing elements of a massage, which are important, but really, and I think now the mindset has shifted for most people who in this industry get a massage on a regular basis, not only for relaxation, but for, that weekend warrior who tweaked their back playing golf, me included. We go in monthly and get work done, and it's great. So that's where the genesis of it, really began, and it led to her wanting to just say, you know what, I'm gonna build a massage experience, and it's called Massage Heights because everything around our massage and facial, which are the two elements within our retreats, we call them retreats, is really sort of elevated. So it's that heightened experience while you're getting a very affordable massage. And so that was the beginning of it. She and the team have done a great job. What I say is super important in terms of training and operations and making sure the franchisees have everything they need. And that's second to none in the industry. We have some really good, strong competitors, and that's a good thing. I think that, having some good competition and, is validation to the market. And it's also just, it's great to see. And then so that has been in place now since 2004. We've constantly built. And to your point, we have great brand equity. But what was amazing to me was we're still sort of in our infancy stages, or first three innings of a ball game, if you will. And that we only have 121 retreats open, Marty, 10 in Canada and about 111 in the U.S. So we have every major market available across the country. And, when you look at our business model and then you look at multi-unit franchisees looking to play in the space, it's a very attractive offer.
It is amazing, Scott, how the industry has changed, over the course of time. You mentioned like with the customers, and I imagine, with life being so stressful today too, that, massage, as you mentioned, is, relaxation, because all of us, are working all the time. Who would you say are, the customers to Massage Heights? I imagine it's probably changed a little bit over time.
Yeah, it's interesting. The customer base has grown, and I think with no, with certainty, I mean, we're going to have a record year this year, okay? So for the brand, we're on pace for a record system-wide revenue. And when you go back and, this pandemic, unfortunately, has caused a lot of angst, a lot of stress. And if you look at our 2019 numbers, let's throw 2020 out the window just for a second, because that's really not a true apples-to-apples comparison. But of course, we can talk about, there's some actually interesting elements within last year that maybe I can share. But if you look at 19 to 21, our numbers they've rebounded extraordinarily well, and they're about 10 or 12% higher than 2019 month to month. And so we are tracking really well. I think that's a testament not only to the brand and the experience, but it's a testament to people's need to come in and get a massage and relieve that stress. So that's something that we've seen. Now, within 2020, the thing about our brand too is it's a membership-based recurring revenue model. Right. And this stat, Marty, kind of surprised me. 83% of our members during the pandemic continued to pay. They continued to pay their monthly membership. That's 11% incredible. Froze. Yeah. So, and I think that's because they wanted these businesses to survive. They wanted them to bounce back for the few months they were closed. They knew that they were going to come use the service the day they opened, and they kept paying their memberships. And so from a franchisee owner perspective, no one was immune to this unfortunate pandemic that we're still living. But they weathered the storm a bit better because they actually were still getting revenues in the door with the model.
It's incredible, Scott. What it says to me, I mean, when you say those numbers, it seems to me, you know it's better than I do, but the customers to Massage Heights, I guess it's safe to say that they're pretty brand loyal customers, aren't they?
100%. That's a great point, Marty. Great observation. I mean, that's one of the things about this brand is because of the heightened experience, because they, kind of like when a woman has a hairstylist and they'll follow that stylist around. Yes. When they find a massage therapist that they like, they're happy and they're going to stay with them. And so we're seeing that play out.
How has technology played a role in the business, Scott? Again, when I had Massage Heights, on a decade ago, I'm sure it's a lot different today. There's mobile technology, and I'm sure, that technology, helped in the pandemic and things like that, as far as, communication and things like that. But how is Massage Heights using technology today?
Yeah, I think to your point, I think a couple key things, let's see, externally for the consumer, but then internally kind of under the covers for the franchisee. So I'll start first externally. They can come in, they could book now on their phones, and it's touchless and all that. I guess pandemic has kind of made that sort of the norm, the new norm. Yes. And people have become very accustomed to that. But in a way, it's very productive and efficient, and it helps us understand, hey, John's walking in the door in 3 minutes. Let's make sure we check in and all of that. So from that aspect, it's been really good. Now, look, I mean, we're not a high-tech brand from a consumer perspective other than the check-in and the check-out. I mean, you're there to get, hands-on massage, right? Or facial. Now, I think where we've seen great strides is, and I was blown away with this because I've been at many brands, as we've kind of alluded to. Internally, we have a proprietary operational system that is just incredible. And so the franchisee can slice and dice and look at every aspect of their business, compare it across the board to other franchisees. What trends are they seeing? What if they pull this lever? What will it do to their business? It's a proprietary system that took a few years to build. So, that's that longevity of the brand and the vision of the brand. But now that we have this, it's a real kind of ace up our sleeve from an operational perspective.
And that's what you're getting, when you buy into a franchise system. Guys, you mentioned, Massage Heights worked years, to create that proprietary operational system.
Correct.
It's something that you can't build overnight, especially when you're on your own. So it's part of it, isn't it?
100%. And that's why it's so robust. It's because, as any growing new emerging brand, when you're starting out, you make stops and starts and, mistakes, and you course correct and pivot. And, so a lot of lessons learned over those 17 years being in business. So Yeah.
Right, absolutely. A fun question we like to ask, Scott, and have someone like yourself on the show. What's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since you've been with Massage Heights? I know you probably have hundreds of stories. I know COVID's always been a theme, when I ask the question, because nobody was expecting that. But, does anything else stand out, over the years?
Well, it's interesting. I've only been at Massage Heights since August 1st, so a little over a month. Now, I've been in the industry a long time, but, when I saw Susan come over, I've known Susan a long time, our new CEO. She's just fantastic, great reputation. I had the pleasure to work with her at Lunchbox Wax Salon a little bit, and we got really we really got into the strategy. And I said, boy, with Susan coming on board and CG Funk, who's sort of a guru and so well known in the industry, that was a head turner when
I saw the press
a couple weeks ago.
Scott.
Yeah. So I was like, I want to be on board with this train. I love this brand. I love the people behind it. And I guess, it's just, to me, in a short period of time, what gives me great pleasure is just every single person out of San Antonio to the FBCs out in the field, the business consultants, everybody is just an A+ person and very passionate and committed to the brand. And, Marty, when you get in your 50s and you get up there a little bit, for me anyway, what I care about is working for good people, working for a good team, working for a good brand. And I couldn't be happier with that.
Is there a difference for you, Scott, in working with a family brand? I haven't had, a lot, out of the 750 shows, we've done up to this point. There hasn't been a lot of family brands, but is there a difference for you, or do you notice a difference in working with a family brand versus, a non-family brand? Great question. And I do. I think, and it's not always easy because sometimes, how do I say this? The family brand will stay engaged even though they're removed, and that can cause some hiccups. I would applaud the Evans, Shane and her family for doing what they've done, taking this brand to where it's at, and then yet allowing us, to really go in and drive the business. Now, of course, we lean on them. We'll go back and talk to them, and they're very engaged. But they do indeed allow us to kind of to run the ship at this point, which I take. I know Susan and CG and the team that we inherited. Russell Hoff at operations is probably the best I've ever seen. These folks, all of them, we appreciate what they've built, and we take that as a great responsibility. And the fact that they've kind of turned the reins over, so to speak. So you feel the elements of the family heritage for sure, but you also want to carry that torch to the next level. So what types of characteristics do you look for or do you want in your new franchisees, Scott? I'm sure there's something that you look for, that you realize that they're going to be a good match for the brand. What's important to you?
Yeah, great question. And, I think the most important thing is being passionate about getting into the space. You don't have to be a massage therapist to run it. You would hire what's called a retreat director, who that person would be, but you still have to be passionate about the space. I get asked the question a lot. Well, is this an absentee business, or And I would say, and I candidly tell people, look, I really don't know any franchise, even though they may say it is, that is truly absentee. If it is, it's like you only get one shot of your grand opening. You only get one shot of opening up in the community. And so I tell our candidates, honestly, you really need to be engaged in the beginning and then hire a great retreat director. But it's also someone that, is coachable or is able to follow a system. And I say that because there are a lot of entrepreneurial people that that's hard for them. They think they can do it better, and they'll go a little bit off the script. And that's the beauty of franchising, is you really don't need to do that. If you trust the process, trust the system, follow the system, learn from your colleagues. Why is Johnny doing this so well in Seattle, Washington? What can I glean from him to make my business a little better, versus, the sort of know-it-all types that think they can do it on their own. So those, true. And again, that's okay if that's your skill set. You're probably better in some other business. Exactly. But we take it to heart that you really need to and that comes clear through the process, Marty. We have a pretty good development process. And it's, like even this week we have a discovery day, and we're awarding a franchise based on us wanting to partner together, and both sides have to feel that it's a great opportunity. So, but those are some of the things we look for. Obviously passion, business acumen helps, but also we have all the tools and training that we can get you there. I think what we can't teach is sort of passion, discipline, willing to follow the plan, right? Those things are just sort of table stakes. Yeah.
But what about the training, Scott? I'm sure the training changed maybe a little bit, COVID was happening, but how does training typically, maybe in the past or in the future, how does that work?
Yeah, we have extensive training at Massage Heights, and to your point, some of it has gone virtual, and we actually revamped. We have a great learning management system, so the LMS is actually even evolving as we speak. And it's I have to tell you, Marty, they put. I said when I joined, put me through all the training as if I was a new franchisee. And by the way, I still haven't gotten through all of it. I'm still taking classes on the weekends and at night. It's very thorough, very robust. Yeah. And obviously we call them camps. So there's camp 1, camp 2, camp 8, and there's different stages. Some are, obviously need to be in person. A lot now is LMS, but then at the very end, of course, we're actually in their retreats, working with them, making sure that, that they're really ready to go when they open their doors. And so very robust training, very thorough. It's only going to get better with some of the people that we've added recently. Couldn't be happier about that.
That's terrific. What is a typical day like for a Massage Heights franchisee, Scott? You mentioned, it's not really an absentee ownership, business. So, I mean, if you could paint like a little bit of a picture of, what goes on during the day, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We have one in my town. I have the advantage of having one right here in Morristown. I'll be meeting with the owner tomorrow for coffee. I get together with him once a month. And, Dave will be, let's see, he'll get up, he'll go in and check in, like anything else. One day last month, the AC wasn't working in the building, and he spent 2 hours trying to get that fixed from the landlord. Sometimes those things happen, right? Sure, of course. It's not always the sexy stuff, but the owner was there making sure that, that he was there to fix that, and they did. And Starbucks is another tenant there, right? So obviously there was a lot of pull and wait and that done. Yeah, but they come in, they check on the business, they rely on their retreat director. They're managing the numbers. They can do it from remotely and look at the numbers. If there's something that's not right, Dave's close enough in this example I'm portraying where he could get in the car and be there in 10 minutes and go check in and fix anything that needs to be fixed. But mostly he's there. The owners are there to check in on their staff, keep their staff very happy. And keep their books full. They're always out there doing grassroots marketing. In town I live in, there's an Athleta next door. There's all kinds of things. It's kind of a retail type town with a green, and so you're out there shaking hands. You're out there promoting the new Clean Juice franchise that's across the street. Hey, Orange Theory, it's the same customer that goes to Orange Theory or Yoga, their juice is getting Massage Heights. So the owner is out there really just being part of the fabric of the community, driving the community, being an ambassador of the brand and saying, hey, look, folks here in Morristown, we've got this great service, this great elevated experience for you to come in and get relaxed. And that's really the main job of the franchise owner. And then the underpinnings of that are relying upon your retreat director and the great massage therapist to actually do the work to make sure that the customer's happy and comes back.
And I have someone on the show like yourself, Scott. I mean, I have to ask, because we've been doing the show 14 years, and one of the things we learned is that a lot of the people that listen to our show, they know they want to get involved in franchising, but a lot of times they don't know where to begin because when I got involved in it, I think it was like around 1999. I think they said something like there was like 1,200 concepts, and I think today I see numbers are like 3,000 different systems or 3,500 systems.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I mean, from everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to someone who is just kind of like starting their franchise search? Where do they begin?
Yeah, I think, a good place to begin is to really sit down, think about, first of all, what segment you might be gravitating towards, right? Some might have a passion for fitness and they want to go into fitness or health or wellness.
Right.
We're sort of we're in that health, wellness, self-care category, right? And think about, A, what you might gravitate towards, B, what does that macro market look like? We're in a $17 billion market here, right? So what does that market look like? Is it big enough to fulfill my passions and my needs and wants? And is it aligned with what you want to build in a community? Look, I'm passionate about self-care. I'm passionate about the healing powers of it, the relaxation powers of it. I want to bring that to my community. I would enjoy my sense of running a small business with great unit economics, which, obviously at the end of the day, you want to do it also to feed your family and be well off. So does the back of the napkin math work, as I like to call it, the unit economics work.
Yeah.
And then so if you check the boxes on those, then you can start getting a little more granular into, okay, well, who are the players in that space? Who might I look at? And quite frankly, you might have two that are neck and neck, but one has no availability, right? Like, one of the advantages to us is, is just the availability to open 2 or 3 in a market or 5 in a market or even 1. So, that then becomes, how reasonable is it? How can I open 1 in my town? Does it make sense? And then really getting involved, I would say, reaching out to the brand and fill out a really quick short order form, takes 3 minutes, then get in the queue, get in the process, talk to the people, and talk to several people, talk to 2, 3, 4, until you really feel like this is the right home for me. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Scott. So if you could look into the future, Scott, so like if we had a crystal ball, 3 years, 5 years down the road, you mentioned, there's a lot of open territory, isn't there, for Massage Heights? I mean, where do you see the company maybe 3 years, 5 years down the road?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be doubling, in 3 years, if we don't have double the units, I'd be surprised. So we're really going into maybe, getting into the 250 range over the next, I'd say, 2.5 to 3 years. We're going to continue to go international, I think, because we're already there, albeit in Canada. It's a great international market to start. Right. But with our international experience, we think we could really get into other international markets, and very strategically. A lot of times, one thing that we don't do in our model, Marty, is sometimes people sell area developer agreements and they say, I sold someone 20 units. That can and cannot work. That's probably for another day. But what I'll say is we love, because of the turf we have, we do it very strategically. We look for people that want to open 3 or 5 over time. That way they can kind of own a market themselves. And we'll do very, very sort of strategic and paced growth in various markets, both here in the U.S. and then internationally as well. So I'd say double. We think this brand easily can get to 500-600 units over the next 5 to 7 years.
I mean, I guess in terms of franchising, I mean, you guys are there, Scott. As I said, I got to become familiar with the brand a long time ago, and now I've always understood, they said like the number is like, they always had the magic number for some reason, like over that 100 mark for some reason, which you guys are over that mark, so I mean, it's fantastic to see where you are today, compared to a decade ago. So I mean, it sounds like you are there, but and now that you have this established brand, or even the brand is more powerful, I don't want to say it's going to be easier, right? But I think it puts you in a better position, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, more great insight, and I think that's what candidates, some sophisticated and savvy candidates, which most of ours are, when they explore this, they get it. They know that, look, we're at that 120 threshold. We've crossed the chasm. We're not a young infant brand, but yet we have so much growth to go. So all the other elements are there: the training, the operations, the support, then the been there, done that, the lessons learned. 14 years in this business, and yet now, gosh, you can really build. Where do I want to go? And every day we're having conversations with, okay, how many do you want in Atlanta? How many do you want in Memphis? Let's finish Vegas and do 3 here. And so, they really can come in, these candidates, and have the luxury I would say the only exception to that is Houston, because obviously we're San Antonio based.
Right.
Houston is almost sold out, but
wow.
we're doing one. Yeah, but other than that, you have the luxury of really coming into a well-established brand with a great opportunity to take down a market or two. So that's really what we're excited about.
That's terrific. What's the best way, Scott, for our listeners to get more information on Massage Heights? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but maybe even the service itself. Are there any websites you want to kind of direct our listeners to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would say just certainly if you just go out to massageheights.com, you'll be able to go out and find your local retreat. But then from a franchising perspective, MassageHeightsFranchise.com, MassageHeightsFranchise.com.
Okay.
And you would just fill out a couple fields, and then you'll get on my team to help you with that process.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Scott. I'd like to, invite you back over maybe the next year or so. I don't want to wait 10 years again to have you back.
No. I'll come back, and who knows? Maybe I'll take the ride over the river and do it in the studio.
That sounds fantastic. It was great talking to you today, Scott. And we'll be right back with more. And as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today because we're meeting with Todd Leff, the CEO and president of the Hand and Stone franchise opportunity. And Hand and Stone provides quality, therapeutic, client-focused massage for your wellness. Hey, Todd, how you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure, Todd. Todd, we always like to ask our guests where you're calling from this morning.
I'm calling from Hamilton, New Jersey, which is actually just outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, no Hamilton. Well, my wife is from New Jersey. I've spent most of my life in New Jersey, and it was funny, Todd, because we just found out this morning. I guess you guys are no stranger to Pennsylvania. We're actually located in Easton, Pennsylvania, and I think you guys have some franchises out here too, don't you?
We just actually within the past 2 weeks opened in Easton, and then today we're opening actually in Center Valley, Pennsylvania, which is just below.
What a small world. It really is. It's funny, because here we are in Easton, and my sister lives in Center Valley as well. So I think we're going to be clients to
That's great.
So my wife was excited, that you guys were going to be on the show this morning. You have an amazing background. I mean, I guess it would be okay to call you a veteran in franchising, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't take offense to that. I'm
not to age you.
That's right. I'm happy to have a good background in franchising.
Yeah, what is it you like about franchising, Todd? I mean, how did you get into it?
Well, I'm an attorney by trade, and actually was a federal prosecutor before I got into franchising.
Wow, interesting background.
Yeah, and Cotman Transmission at the time was a small regional franchise, was looking for an in-house attorney, and I came on as their general counsel, and later became a principal in the company and president of the company, and then ultimately also president of Amco Transmissions, who we acquired in 2006.
Right.
So I had a long history with those two organizations as president and a principal, and I was very fortunate to do what most people aspire to do, which is I sold almost all of my interest in those companies, and I retired when I was 50 years old, and played a lot of golf for about 90 days. And then my wife said, you better find something else to do because I don't like you being home by 1 o'clock every day.
Sounds like a typical story, doesn't it?
Yeah. It always looks better from the other side, I think. And
funny.
Everybody aspires to retire young, but it's
of course
you have to stay challenged mentally and intellectually in business. So. And that's how I came to Hand and Stone, actually. I was doing probably what a lot of your, listeners do is, what was the next business opportunity I was going to buy and grow. And I came across Hand and Stone, which was a small, franchise organization at the time. It had about 25 units and didn't have much franchising experience on the management team, and they were looking for an investor and somebody to come lead the organization. So it was a good marriage.
The company was started by, I guess it was John Marco, and I guess he was described as a visionary. Could you talk a little bit about the history of the company?
Sure. John's actually a physical therapist and had been for 20 plus years, and saw that massage was becoming more used by the traditional medical community and in the physical therapy field, and thought, wow, to be able to bring this to kind of middle market consumers and to everyday people, because massage prior to that had been really more for the rich and famous, and and so he developed a single unit in Toms River, New Jersey, and he opened that in about 2005 and was very successful, and consumers really took to the concept, and in about late 2006 he started franchising the concept, and didn't have any franchise experience. He was a physical therapist, and so they did kind of got off the ground and got running, but realized if he wanted to see it grow, he had to bring on some more experienced people. And John has stayed on, so he's the COO of our organization, and I came in as the president and CEO.
Wow. So how do you describe the Hand and Stone franchise system to someone? I mean, if you guys were at a franchise show, Todd, and someone came up to your booth and said, "Oh, what do you guys do?" Where do you go from there?
That's a great question. I mean, because it's a new concept in this industry, and how I describe it is we are delivering massage, facials, and waxing services, so day spa services, to the middle market consumer at a price that's 35% less than what was traditionally paid, and with hours and locations that are much more convenient to consumers. And then the big hook is actually that we are a membership-based concept for roughly 50% of our revenue, and so we have members to our spas who pay a reduced amount and commit to getting a service each month.
Wow. One of the things we tell our listeners on the show frequently over the last 5 years is to look at the industry. And it's amazing how this industry, if you look at it on a chart or a graph, I mean, how it keeps growing. Could you talk a little bit about the industry?
Sure.
Numbers?
I mean, we're actually in, if you think about it, when I came here in 2009, one of my first big initiatives was to really launch us into the skincare and facials business as well. So we're really in two businesses, which is massage and skincare and facials. The massage industry has grown to now over $12 billion in annual sales, and they estimate, I think, last year that 22% of the U.S. population got a massage, which is an amazing adoption, widespread adoption by consumers.
Yeah.
And the facials industry is actually even bigger. That's actually an $18 billion industry, skincare, total. So, we're operating in two huge, industries, both of which have seen, tremendous growth over the last few years. And, partly due, again, to the aging population. They say that, the use among baby boomers has actually doubled of massage in the last 10 years. And, you go out and play golf on the weekend or do run, and Monday morning you're ready to go and get a massage, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we saw another statistic we referenced on this show last week when we were promoting you guys. It said 85% of consumers believe massage is beneficial to health and wellness. So I mean, that really is amazing when you see the changes that are taking place here, in the United States, and I guess even probably in other countries, which we could always talk about later. How has technology played a role in this business, Todd?
It's so interesting because you would think it's a very hands-on business. How can technology improve this business? But, technology has really played a role in kind of three key areas of our business. One is customer acquisition, and that's through, we're very big users of sites like Living Social and Groupon. We do tremendous with them in our offerings. And using, low-cost targeted technology devices like Constant Contact and other marketing devices, which, in the past we had to paint with such a broad stroke, and now, technology has allowed us to target. And then in the customer service area, we are the first actually in this industry to use one of the outside web-based third-party consumer feedback. So we use Questar, and basically consumers are giving direct feedback on their services, and our franchisees can go in each night and view on a dashboard where they rank in each service category, what the consumer had to say about the service, how they could adjust it. It's proving to be a great feedback tool. So, even though massage is thousands of year old service and it's hands-on, the technology around the business has really helped us improve.
Yeah, it's a great way, I think, for, your franchisees to keep score, as you were saying, and know how they're doing. So one of the questions we like to stump our guest every so often is, what's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you, Todd, since joining Hand and Stone?
It's hard to point out a one interesting
yeah, of
thing.
Course.
I'm just always, and this is the thrill that I get in business, is seeing businesses grow. And I remember the first day I came to Hand and Stone, I got the whole staff together, all 5 of us, and said, you're sitting at a unique point in time in this company, because there will never be just 5 of us sitting around this table. And so now we had our staff meeting, around Christmas, and now we have 15, staff members now, sitting around the table. We went from 25 spas in a very small little organization to now we have over 70 locations open and, another 30 in development. So I just, to me, the most interesting is to watch the evolution of, small business become a mid-sized business, and then, hopefully later, a larger franchise. And it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it really is something special when you can be part of something like that, when it's so small and you get to see it grow over time and say, I was there in the beginning, when it all happened. It really is something special. So what kind of characteristics do you look for in your franchisees then, Todd?
I've been doing franchising for 20-plus years, and I'd say it's so interesting to me is that the same characteristics that made a successful automotive aftermarket owner who might make a successful fast food, and same with us. I mean, it's from our perspective, and what I always see in franchising is people who are outgoing, who can manage people, who have a sales orientation, who have attention to detail, and importantly too, who can manage, the financial picture of a unit. That's what I'm looking for. So if you've had, and rarely do we ever find anybody who had prior spa industry or massage.
Right.
Our people are coming out of other businesses. So other franchisees of other systems, great candidates for us, and we've had a number. Wow. We've had McDonald's franchisees. We have a very large Aaron's franchisee. So we've had a number of other systems where people have, either bought this plus their other system or left the other system and came to us. So we find, it's the same skill set, across different platforms of franchising.
Yeah, it sounds like people who appreciate, I guess, the concept of franchising and not reinventing the wheel and following the system and all those other things, I guess, that make them successful franchisees. So once someone decides that you say, I want to be part of this whole thing, what's the training like for your new franchisees?
We're really hands-on and very extensive with the training, and this is something I found, again, in my prior, franchise experiences. You really have to lead, through that opening process. So our training process is franchisee first starts with 3 days in the spa, learning, the computer system, seeing hands-on, and that's kind of the overview. They then come to the home office for a week of classroom training that they do here in Hamilton, New Jersey. We then come out when they're ready to open, and we train 2 days for their spa associates. We train their massage therapist for 2 days. And then we actually put somebody in the spa for the first 5 days of their operation to actually operate the spa with them. So, they're getting a lot of hand-holding, a lot of training. And we recognize we're taking people who had no experience in this industry and we want to make them, spa owners. We really have to take them through a very comprehensive training process.
Wow. So what's a typical day like for a Hand and Stone franchisee, if there is such a thing?
Yeah.
Typical day?
In franchising, I'm not sure there's ever, and that's what a lot of people love about franchising is you're never doing the same thing twice on the same day. But, where I see our successful owners spending their time, one, in the beginning, it's a lot of attention to the customer experience at the spa level. So our franchisees don't work the retail, counter. They hire managers or spa associates, but, they are constantly training those folks, overseeing the process. There's a lot of, HR and scheduling work in this because, more than 50% of your business actually comes same day, so people book the same day, so you're constantly, making sure you have the right staff coverage. And then, once the spa is up and initially set up, maybe after the first 30 days, our successful owners are really out there networking in the community.
Right.
Every health and wellness business has to know who you are and what you do in a 5-mile radius. Every gym, fitness club we want to have a relationship with, bridal shops, restaurants, and so a lot of our franchisees are, spending significant time out there, really marketing the business, and that's where they can add value, to growing the business.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you've been doing this such a long time. The questions I was excited to ask you is what advice would you give to our listeners on buying a franchise, Todd?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I will give you my 3 questions that I tell every new prospect. These are the 3 questions you should answer in looking at any franchise. One is, do you believe in the long-term growth of the industry? Because it's very hard in an industry that's flat or declining to claw away market share from other established competitors. So me personally, I was looking for an industry that had long-term growth potential. Number 2, do you believe in the underlying business model of that franchise? Because you can have a great industry and have a business model that doesn't work. So you have to get into the building a pro forma, looking at what the potential revenue is and what that would produce. And then the third question I tell people to ask is, can you see yourself fitting culturally with the organization, whether that's the management team that you'll be working with at the franchise, the people you'd be working with in the business, and the other franchisees in the system? Do you see yourself being able to get along and work with those groups and have confidence that these people can lead a brand forward? So I think if you can answer all 3 of those questions yes, then you really have something that you ought to investigate carefully and proceed with.
Wow, that's well said. We're going to have to, we have what's called the great quotes in franchising. I think we're going to have to put that in there. I think that's fantastic advice. So what are the plans for the future then, Todd? I mean, where do you guys see yourself maybe, 5 years down the road?
Right. We take a very, targeted approach to growth. Our goal is to really open, 40 to 50 new locations a year. Last year we opened 28 new locations. I think we'll, for 2012 we're budgeting about 40 new locations. And, we really, our whole focus in my experience in franchising is you gain strength from clustering your growth. And so, we're kind of targeting certain markets to grow in. That's why you're seeing, growth up in the Easton area, because the Delaware and Lehigh Valley are one of our targeted markets. And as well as New Jersey and some others. So, I see us, basically opening, 40 to 50 new locations a year over the next, 4 or 5 years, and scaling our team up, bringing, more, professional management in, and building a strong network of franchisees.
The locations that you have here, I'm familiar with in Pennsylvania, Todd. I mean, they're hot locations. I mean, they're really very strong locations. What do you guys look for? I mean, as far as location goes.
That's a great question. I'm glad you noticed that because it's really very, very significant part of our strategy. Our strategy is to locate our spas in, power regional centers that have daily use anchors. So we like, grocery anchored centers. One of the things we found is that our customer and the people who shop at Target are very similar. So we like being near Target, stores. Right. We like being near where people sleep. So that's people get this service near where their homes are. And so we look for highly, concentrated, bedroom communities, and it was a clear part of our strategy to go into these power regional centers, and it's really worked out well for us.
That's fantastic. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on becoming a franchisee, Todd? Any websites they can go to? Any numbers they can call?
Sure. handandstone.com or handandstonefranchise.com are really the best places to get information. There's an informational video, and we'd love to talk to your listeners about opening their own Hand and Stone.
That's fantastic. And I want to thank you again, Todd. You've been a fantastic guest, and we'd love to have you back at the end of the year as you guys continue to grow.
Well, thanks. We appreciate the opportunity. We'd love to give you an update as we round out 2012.
Thanks so much, Todd. You have a great day today.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Day Spa franchise. And the Woodhouse Day Spa is an upscale chain of day spas offering more than 40 different treatments that encompass skin and body care, hand and foot care, massage therapy, special treatments, and more. Hey, Jenny, how you doing today? Welcome to the show. Hi, Jenny. How you doing today?
Hi. Doing great, Marty. Good morning.
Oh, that's terrific, Jenny. You always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Jenny?
I'm calling from Victoria, Texas.
Oh, nice. How's the weather there today?
Oh, it's great. It's 75 degrees, nice December weather for us here.
Yeah, this is a good time of the year to be in Texas, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. You have a great story, Jenny. I have I'm a faculty advisor for this group called the Kaplan University Collegiate Entrepreneurs, and I work with a lot of younger entrepreneurs, 18 to 25 years old, and a lot of times, they always think they're too young to actually get into entrepreneurship. And when I was reading your story, I mean, you were almost destined to be an entrepreneur, weren't you? I thought you had a great story. Maybe you could tell a little bit about, what were you doing before starting and founding the Woodhouse Day Spa?
Sure. I did start young. I started the Woodhouse when I was 21, and so we're in our 11th year now. So, but before that, I did have a lot of experience. I started my work career young, but I was in the healthcare industry, and I worked for a group of ambulatory surgery centers. And what was interesting is they had a chain of surgery centers that was about 20 surgery centers around the country. And I was able to do cost accounting for those surgery centers and develop a program and travel to the different centers and implement this new cost accounting. So I was able to see what it was like to see a chain that was had duplicated systems and so that experience led me to my franchise implement my franchise systems with Woodhouse. So it was a great experience, and to see see the systems and the way that they had set up the ambulatory surgery centers, all similar with decor, with the way that everything was very similar. So.
Yeah, it was like this. When I was reading your story, Jenny, it was like, I guess you had this appreciation for franchising and systems, you had that epiphany or, whatever it may be, that probably led to, where you are today. And, it was interesting. We always ask our guests, how the name came about. And I thought it was an interesting story, too, how you actually came up with the name for the Woodhouse Day Spa. Maybe you want to tell that for just a moment.
Sure. My husband and I have always loved spas. For one, and I guess that it kind of leads into, and so when we decided to open a Woodhouse, we decided on Friday, and we bought the house on Monday, and so we were very quick in deciding to do this, and the house that we bought was a historical landmark, and I have to give credit to my husband, but we decided to keep the original name of the Woodhouse. It's the Woodhouse House, and so it is a historical landmark where our first location is located, and so that's where the name came from.
Yeah, and I think that adds to the character of the whole franchise too. You know, I always find like there's like interesting stories. You know, how like the franchise started and coming up with the name and things like that. So I really thought it added to the character of the franchise as well. If you were at a franchise show, Jenny, earlier in the year I took my wife to her first franchise show after 10 years, and she was surprised at all the people that were there this year. It was at the Jacob Javits Center. But it's funny when people come up to your booth, and it seems like the typical question is, so what do you do? How would you typically answer that question if someone came up to your booth and said, so what do you guys do?
We're an upscale spa franchise, and the way I explain that is we're very different from other franchises that are out there. We're more of a boutique franchise, and the things that separate us from other franchise systems are, the Woodhouse has a very family-oriented culture. We're if you go to we've recently had what we call our family reunion. It's our franchise convention. Our culture is deep in family. Just that you can just feel it when you're there. Yeah. And so that really separates us from the other franchise systems. But on the other side, we have a very, very systematic approach to our business model. The other thing, we have a lot of technology within our system that, for the size of our system, is very impressive. We have our Woodhouse Village that we built several years ago, and it has grown to a very impressive communication system where our franchisees at any time of the day or night can log in and have access to all of the manuals, all of the reports, anything. It's like the home office in their office. And the Woodhouse University is linked there. And the Woodhouse University is a new system that the franchisees can log on to and get training, and I can talk a little bit about that when we talk about training. But there's a lot of technology within our model that we would explain when someone walked up. And so, we are a luxury franchise, and I think that is something that really sets us apart. When you walk into a Woodhouse, people don't realize it's a franchise. Our spas are not cookie cutter. They are designed to be they feel like a Woodhouse. They the scent is all the same. So the colors, the furniture is all the same. But we do have this local flair. So in Austin, you'll have the Austin Rock. In New Orleans, you'll have a little New Orleans flair. So people don't realize that it's a franchise, and I think the society likes that because they don't want people are tired of the cutter chains, and so that's why Woodhouse is doing so well now. And our growth, we're up 20% same-store sales this year, and it's pretty incredible. So.
It is amazing, when you see the growth. I mean, this industry has certainly, and I've been following it, for some time now. Are there numbers on the industry, Jenny, as far as it's a pretty big industry, isn't it?
It's a $13 billion industry.
$13 billion. I thought. Yeah. It's just pretty significant.
It is, and the thing that we track is, we outperform the industry in every benchmark that's out there, and each year we provide our franchisees with a 60-page benchmark study, and it tracks all the different performance indicators, and we track these benchmarks against the industry and against spas within the Woodhouse family, and so we can provide that. But what's interesting is in every category within the system, we're outperforming the industry, and I think that's because of the business model and what we call the Woodhouse way. And that leads to my next point is we look for franchisees that are not necessarily in the industry. All of our franchisees, none of our franchisees have spa experience. They are business people. They are from corporate America. They're lawyers. They're computer scientists. They're people who, because we don't look for people within the industry so that we don't have to untrain them, because Woodhouse has a very unique way of approaching the industry. When we got into the industry, it's a very fragmented industry, and what's interesting, it's 95% of the spas and salons within the industry are operated by massage therapists or estheticians who work in their business rather than on their business. And you know what happens when you're working in your business, not on your business.
Exactly. And, it seems like, there's so many different industries out there franchising today, Jenny. I think we're up to it depends what source you're looking at, 75 to 80 industries, and this has always seemed to be, I use the word fun industry, or an industry that I think at least you can put a smile on your customers' faces, at the end of the day. It's not like a transmission franchise where you're, charging someone $3,000, and, the customers are, so upset. This is really, I guess we could probably call it, and, you could say better than I, like a feel-good type of franchise, would you say?
Yeah. We're not twisting people's arms to sell the franchises. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
It's a great industry, and it's a really fun franchise to own, and it's not only fun, but it's at the end of the day we're making a difference in the guests' lives, and that's the bottom line, and that's why our franchisees are such happy owners, because we're giving back. We're able to make a difference in the community, a difference in the guests' lives.
What is a typical day like as a franchisee for the Woodhouse Day Spa, Jenny? From maybe the moments you go into the spa till the end of the day and everything else in between. What happens during that day?
Well, right now in December they're pretty busy. They're hopping around. Lots of marketing. Our marketing system, our marketing program is very, very aggressive. So I would say probably 30-40% of their effort is on marketing, and that's a lot of social media, a lot of, but also a lot of community grassroots programs. So most of their time during the day is going to be working on their marketing program, marketing planning, communicating with the home office, because we provide all of their graphics, we provide all of their support materials for that. So they're going to be working with us, requesting materials. They're going to be sitting in on webinars that we provide on a weekly basis, sitting in on franchise family phone calls, getting information on that. They're going to be working with their general manager on the schedules. They're going to be looking at a high level, because we want them to be working on their business, not in their business. So at a certain point, they're going to have a general manager on staff that is handling the day-to-day. So they're going to be planning. They're going to be working in the community. They're going to be planning events. So it's a high level. They're going to be interviewing new employees. So it is a busy position, but it is more of a high level position. Planning, a lot of planning, meeting. And their staff is usually between, depending on the size of the spa, anywhere between 20 and 50 employees.
Wow, so the full day.
It is.
That's fantastic. You mentioned about their backgrounds and what a lot of the franchisees were doing in their previous lives. Are there any particular traits that you as the founder of the company, you look for in your franchisees that you think would make good franchisees for the Woodhouse Day Spa?
The best franchisees in our system have good sales backgrounds, sales, marketing, good communication skills. They're team players. They're going to be good at working with their staff. And, we look for people who are going to be Woodhouse ambassadors. So when they come to our discovery day, that's the traits that we look for. And unfortunately, we do have to turn down people sometimes when they don't have those traits. And we've recently had to do that. But that's, we have to be disciplined to do that in order to, allow our brand to grow the way that we want to. And we have been disciplined. The first 10 years of Woodhouse has all been focused on building our systems, building our support, and our foundation. We didn't go out the first 10 years and outsource our development, grow fast. We were very methodical about and disciplined about making sure we had the foundation in place to support our franchise system. the second decade of Woodhouse is about growth, about brand awareness, and while still maintaining the incredible support system that we have in place. So we have outsourced our development now, and we do have plans to grow at a more rapid pace because we do have the support systems and foundation in place.
Once you decide that, they are a match, Jenny, they like you, you like them, what happens from that point? They want to become part of the franchise system. I assume that there's like a training where they come out to, is it headquarters, and, how does that all work?
So once they've signed the franchise agreement, they'll come to a week-and-a-half training at the headquarters at the home office in Victoria, and they'll do also an internship here in Victoria. At the company store here, we have 2 locations in Victoria, and once they finish that, they go through the build-out process of their spa, and then our team goes on site and finishes the training with them and trains their staff in the Woodhouse way on all of the protocols, and then our startup team goes on site and helps them open the spa.
What kind of location works best for a Woodhouse Day Spa, and how much space, I guess, is required to open one?
Between 4,500 and 7,000 square feet is what we look for, and we're typically going into lifestyle centers, outdoor malls, or freestanding spaces. So we're open to different. We're even in hotels now. So and most recently a casino space.
Wow.
So we're expanding in different in a lot of different areas. So I can't say we're stuck on one type of property. We're in our number one locations in a historical landmark in Denver. So it depends, but most of our locations now are going into lifestyle centers because that's the most popular type of space that's being built. So, but we're not just focused on lifestyle centers.
You've also had, some great accolades over the years too. When I was reading about the franchise, I think it was a Day Spa magazine. I think they named you, was it the best day spa in America or something like that?
Yeah,
it was a pretty nice accolade, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a great year. We were voted best spa chain in America, and then we've been awarded the Franchise Satisfaction Award for about 6 years.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's my favorite because, my happy franchisees is my number one priority, and to be voted, top in the Franchise Satisfaction Award is, to me, that's my number one priority. So that award stands out each year when we receive that.
Being that you're entrepreneurial, I say it started back, I think I remember around 14 years old. You've been involved in entrepreneurship for a while. It almost seems like you were born an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But, with a lot of our listeners, Jenny, we call them aspiring entrepreneurs. They have this idea that, they want to get into franchising. Mm-hmm. It seems like so many of them are overwhelmed because there's just so much out there today. And I think a lot of them they don't know where to begin. What would you say to them? What advice would you give to them? Because you've been doing this for a while now.
Sure. I would tell them to talk to the franchisees in the system, talk to as many franchisees in the system as you can. See if you can work a day in the life of a franchisee, see if they'll let you come in and visit with them. I think that's, the more that you can talk to, the better. And do your research. Do as much research as you can on the industry itself. See if it's going to be something that you love. You have to love what you do. That's the biggest thing, in my opinion. This is going to be hopefully what you do for the rest of your life. So, make sure it's something that you love. The industry itself and, the day-to-day work. So I think before you start getting online and Googling different franchises, just sit down and decide what it is that you love to do and then start doing your research.
That's very good advice. What are the plans for the future then? Being that you're the founder and the CEO of the company, I can ask you, where do you see the franchise, maybe like 3 to 5 years down the road, Jenny?
Well, like I mentioned, so now we're focused on growth through regional development. We've outsourced our franchise development so that we can focus our home office focus on support. And that's a really important transition that we made last year. When we made that transition last year, we signed 87 contracts for new development, and that was significant for us. So we have right now 29 spas operating. We have 87 spas under contract to develop over the next 10 years, and that's domestically. We have a spa opening in India and 91 spas under contract to develop there. We will be growing domestically through regional development. That means we have a regional developer who signs a contract for an area, and then they are responsible for developing a certain number of spas and then supporting and training those spas. Now, we still do everything that we would do with a normal franchisee. It's just extra layer of ground support there, and I love that method because it's a grassroots method of growth. It's somebody on the ground finding franchisees, training them, and people I have spoken with who are in those areas are very excited about that as well. So I like this method. It has allowed us to expand more rapidly. And now because we have spent 10 years on building these systems, the Village, this online university that was, by the way, built by the team that built the Federal Aviation's learning management system. It's a very advanced learning management system that our franchisees have access to. We have these incredible tools for our franchisees. Because we did that, now we can expand. We have systems in place that could support 200 franchises easily. So that's the way that we're going to grow in the future, is through regional development.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Jenny, for our listeners to get more information on becoming a franchisee? Any websites they should go to? Any numbers they can call?
Sure. We just built our new website, woodhousespas.com, and you can visit woodhousefranchises.com for more information on the Woodhouse franchise.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Jenny. You've been a fantastic guest.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.